Hello, and welcome to the latest Darkest Duo workshop. Today's episode was requested by one of our valued subscribers. Thank you all for your continued support towards this channel. They've requested that I go over my flagship and all-time personal favourite hero in Zoryg. Over the course of the video, I aim to break down his skills and offer up some premium team lineups that suit these skills, and offer up my humble opinion on Zoryg in the different game modes. With that said, grab your club spoons and let's tuck in. First off is his ultimate skill, Master Chef, which he consumes his concoction, healing himself for 25% of his maximum HP. If Zoryg or an ally successfully stun an enemy before Zoryg uses his ultimate, he gains an additional following effect. If an enemy is stunned once, Zoryg's provocation is increased by 100%. Twice, Zoryg's defense increases by 30% for 5 seconds. 3 times, he recovers an additional 15% of his maximum HP. If enemies are stunned 4 times or more, his block rate chance increases by 10% for a maximum of 2 times per battle until the end of the fight. After using this ultimate, the stun counter towards the enemy is reset back to 0. Upon a critical ultimate, most of these values remain the same, but with the critical ultimate, each of the enemies who attack Zoryg during the 5 seconds after the ultimate now receive a poisoning status which deals 10% damage from poisoning for 3 seconds. During this time, the enemy's defense is also lowered by 25%. His trigger skill randomly attacks enemies twice in a row, dealing 120% damage and also stuns them for 2 seconds. And Zoryg's passive skill, with Sacred Aura unlocked, Zoryg's tough skin allows him a 10% chance to block all damage. When this block chance activates, Zoryg heals himself for 5% of his maximum HP. Every 5th hit on Zoryg now stuns the enemy for 1 second. As you can see, this culinary genius has some pretty interesting skills and mechanics, which leads us nicely on to the possible team lineups that help Zoryg capitalise on these mechanics. Taking into account his ultimate skill, for instance, he heals himself, which is great, but also gains an additional effect per stun applied in between these ultimates, so naturally you'll want to pair him with heroes who can also stun alongside Zoryg's stun to maximise on these effects. There are plenty of options here depending upon the situation you find yourself in, either within the tower or the PvP arena. Chimeria, Ragnar and Larian are to name but a few. But by far the most potent I've found is the damaging class hero Chaz. With his ultimate and also passive skill with Sacred Aura unlocked, Chaz makes up for the lack of damage Zoryg outputs and also helps maximise these additional effects from Zoryg's ultimate, thanks to his 100% unblockable stun linked to Chaz's ultimate. Another thing that makes Zoryg stand out is the block chance from his passive skill, which has a low 10% chance to block all forms of damage. But also with Sacred Aura unlocked got a very nice and welcome boost, in the fact that if Zoryg successfully blocks an attack, he heals himself for 5% of his HP, which brings me on to the next hero to help boost his passive skill mechanic in Drogo. Drogo's ultimate skill heals allies for 10% of their max HP, whilst also raising the allies' attack by 50% and block chance by 50%. Upon a critical, this is increased to 15% HP, and also increases attack and block chance to an incredible 100% for 4 seconds. And yes, the block chance from Drogo's ultimate just counts towards the 5% heal per block in Zoryg's passive, meaning upon a critical ultimate from Drogo, Zoryg is now healing 5% of his maximum HP per blocked attack, rather than taking the usual damage, which is really fun to watch when it does happen. So now we have the lineup of Drogo, Zoryg and Chaz as a possible lineup that plays to Zoryg's strength. Adding Spike into the mix for the stats makes the most sense pet-wise. Whilst this is a very fun build, you aren't breaking the game or making waves in the PvP scenes with it sadly, as Drogo heals are just not enough to get the most out of Chaz and keep him alive long enough in my experience. Another potential variation to the Drogo and Zoryg lineup could be with the latest hero Bo, and a slightly more defensive focused lineup within PvP. Bo coming in as a straight swap for Chaz could potentially work pretty nicely. Bo's ultimate skill boosts his defense, healing efficiency and provocation, whilst his trigger skill deals potentially massive damage and also provides those all-important additional stuns. And if passive skill, Bow increases his own attack by 200% for 5 seconds, also dealing an additional 80% per ultimate he's used during the battle to the offending enemy who critted Bow. Drogo, Zoryg and Bow potentially work well due to Bow's ultimate boosting healing efficiency, meaning Drogo's ultimate is now healing Bow for more after each of Bow's ultimates. Pair that with the fact you have Drogo's block chance and the fact Zoryg can self-sustain himself, and also pair these three with the 2 tank and 1 support pet Tori, whose 3rd skill boosts critical rate and also attack with gear unlocked. You could be onto something brilliant under the right circumstances. Now that we've covered the teams that play to Zoryg's strengths, I'll go over what I've found after playing him for almost 3 years now. The reason I randomly ended up with this love for Zoryg was simply down to pure dumb luck. For some reason, when I first started, every other pull in Hero Crew just seemed to be Zoryg. So to highlight the amount I seemed to pull at the start, my original campaign team was Morrigan, Zoryg and Arumi. By the time my Morrigan had got Grandmaster, Zoryg was already sat at 3 stars, and it's simply down to the amount of pulls I had with him. It just didn't seem to make sense to swap him out at this time, so I stuck with him. Playing in the campaign mode with Zoryg at times was like eating soup with a fork. I won't lie to you when I say this, whilst a brilliant hero just made the campaign very difficult when compared to the basins of the darkest AFK world. And then we have the bosses and dragons. Once again, a brilliant hero, but outright rubbish at doing any reliable damage to any bosses in the game. But then we have the PvP arena, where he comes into his absolute own and can dominate by frustrating the opponents with stuns, blocks and burps. Raising a Zoryg isn't for the faint-hearted, and I have enjoyed the massive ups and downs of his god-awful cooking over the years. And with that said, that will end this episode of the Darkest Duo Workshop. Until next time, from us at Darkest Duo, have a great day, travellers.